Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video we are going to discuss how we can set up a CI/CD pipeline on AWS. So to set up a CI/CD pipeline on AWS services or on AWS cloud, you need a few services. With the help of those services, you can set up a CI/CD pipeline. So let's understand what all those services which is required to set up a CI/CD pipeline. So the very first thing, let me go to here code build section, or you can simply search your developer tools as well. So let me minimize this. So you can see under developers tools, there are few services available. The very first is CodeCommit. Let me take a marker here. So the very first is CodeCommit. So this is the very first service which you will see under developer tool section. So the code commit is similar to your GitHub. So basically in AWS, if you want to use or if you want to store your application source code, for that you can use a code commit service. But recently AWS discontinued this service. So as of now, this service is only available if you are an existing customer. If you are new customer or new user, you cannot use code commit service. So there are alternatives, like you can use GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. So there are many alternates available to store your application source code, and later you can integrate the third-party version control system with AWS. Okay, so if let me show you. So if I will come here, repository section. So you can see we are getting a warning here. AWS code commit is no longer available for new customers. Existing customer of AWS code commit can continue to use this service. So in this video, we are not going to focus on this particular service, which is code commit, because we are not going to use it. And if you are a new user, or if you have started learning AWS, then definitely you cannot use this service, because you will be considered as a new user or new customer. Another service here you can see artifacts, which is code artifact. So a lot of people got confused with this service. So basically this service is not to store your build artifact. This code artifact service is generally used to store your application packages, like your NuGet packages, your Maven packages, or your DLLs. All those things you can store under code artifact services. This is not for general build artifact, like whatever build artifact we produce to deploy, it could be on EC2, Lambda, or Beanstalk. Those artifacts you cannot store on this service. Only your application packages you can store under code artifact services. Okay, now the another important service here we have is build. So which is called a code build service. So basically this service is a CI part. Sorry, CI part. So continuous integration, if you need to set up on AWS, you will use a code build service. And if you have to use CD part, for that you will use code deploy service. So code build service is used to compile your application source code, generate the build artifact, or maybe, or here you can do a code analysis, you can run your test suite. So everything you can perform under code build section. So in short, this is your app, this is your CI pipelines, or we can say this is a CI part, continuous integration you can achieve with the help of code build service. Another service here we have deployment service, which is code deploy. So this is your CD part, which you will use to deploy the artifact which is generated by code build stage or code build a service. So whatever the artifacts you will publish from code build service, those artifacts will be deployed using code deploy service. So in short, code build is your CI part, code deploy is your CD part. So, and another service you can see here, pipeline. So code pipeline basically is a workflow service. Basically, with the help of code pipeline service, you can create a complete end-to-end CI/CD pipeline. So when you create a code pipeline service, you are going to integrate your code build service, your code deploy service, and finally you will see a complete pipeline where all the stages will be there, from your code commit to code build to code analysis, later on a code deploy. So from this service, basically you can deploy your application source code or application build artifacts on EC2, Lambda, Beanstalk. If you want to deploy your artifacts on, for example, EKS cluster, in that you cannot directly use code deploy service. For that, definitely you have to use app mesh, I think, if I could remember correctly, or maybe you can use a custom Kubernetes manifest file to achieve EKS deployment. So in this later on this series, basically we will cover that part also, but this is a very beginner level video which I'm going to create. So we are just going to understand what all the components or what all the services are available to create a CI/CD pipeline on AWS. Okay, so another thing, you will see an option here called settings. So under connections, basically you are going to set up your third party repositories. It could be your GitLab, GitHub, or maybe Bitbucket. So because how you will integrate, like you have a separate GitHub repositories where you have your application source code. Now you should create some kind of connections that AWS can consume, or AWS can pick those application source code from GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket. So for that we need to create a connection first. So let's create a connection first with our GitHub repositories. Then we will first configure a code build pipeline. Later on we will use code deploy, or finally we will see how we can create a complete end-to-end code pipeline, which in general we call a CI/CD pipeline. So the very first thing, we have to connect our GitHub repositories to AWS. Okay, so let's click on create connection, and where is your application source code? So let me choose GitHub and here I will give a connection name. So let me give my GitHub connection. Now let me click on connect. So here, okay, so let me click on install a new app. Okay, now it will ask for authentication to my GitHub repositories. So let me provide a code here. Okay, so it is successfully verified. You can see AWS connector for GitHub is installed on this my GitHub account. So let me click on, you can okay, so one more thing, like if you want to grant a permission to all of your repositories, you can simply click on all repositories here, or if you want to grant a permission to selected repositories, you can select the repositories from here. So let me select my repositories here. So I'll go with okay, let me search it. Okay, so you can see Subham Agrawal 17, which is my username of GitHub account, and this is the repository tutorial which I have selected here. So let me select it, save it, sorry. So you can see it, we got a one unique ID here basically. So let me click on connect. Okay, so you can see connection, my GitHub connection created successfully. If I'll go to connection back, you can see status is available. It means now this AWS account has permission on my GitHub repositories. So next thing what we have to do in CI/CD part, we have to first create a continuous integration part. So for that I will use CodeBuild service. And before, so to use CodeBuild service, first you have to create a project. So let me create a project first, and let me give any name, my app project. Project type you can see default or runner project, so I'll go with default project. In additional configuration you can provide descriptions and all, but let me leave it default for now. Now source, so what is my primary source provider? Basically you can see here, so my primary source provider is GitHub. So let me select it, and here you can see you have not connected to GitHub account. So let me click on manage account credentials. This is my connection. Let me save it. So now you can see your account is successfully connected by using an AWS managed GitHub app. So it means now I have connected to my GitHub repository. So if I will search here, you can see this is my repository. Let me open my GitHub account as well. And here I will go under this particular repositories which we are interested. So you can see I have multiple folders inside this repositories, but we will go with this folder where basically we are going to deploy our application on Beanstalk. So Beanstalk is a web service. This is basically similar to a Azure web app, but in AWS we have a Beanstalk. So again it is a platform as a service which we can use to deploy our application. So let me select my repositories. Now here source version, which is optional. So here we will provide a branch name which is main. Under additional configurations, like if you want to use sub modules and all, we can use it. Otherwise we will leave it default. Now primary source webhook events. So here let me select a build type which is single build, which is fine. Approver roles, this is also fine. Okay, let me select webhook event filter group. So this is also optional, which is fine. Let me leave it. Additional configuration, manually creation. Okay, this is also optional, so we are not going with this. Okay, now under environment, what we are going to select. So basically if you can see, the very first thing here is provisioning model. Like to run this code build service, we need some kind of instance like virtual machine or EC2 instances where this service will run. So for that we are going to use provisioning model is on demand, like automatically provision build infrastructure in response to a new builds. If you have a reserved capacities, you can use this option. Environment type, I will go with managed image, because on any of the EC2 instance which it is going to provision, that will have some kind of operating systems. So if you have your own operating systems or your own OS image, you can use a custom image, but I'll go with AWS manage. Compute type, I will go with EC2 instance. If you want serverless, you can go with Lambda as well. Running mode, so I'll go with container. So this is the operating system. You can see Amazon Linux. If you want, you can choose a different version, like if you have Ubuntu or Windows servers. So I'll go with default, which is Amazon Linux here. Runtime, I will go with the standard because only single options. This is the Amazon Linux image which we are going to use as part of this EC2 instance which we are going to provision. If you want, you can also change different versions, but let me go with default one. Image version, so always use the latest image from this runtime version, so it's fine for me. Okay, now under service role, so this is very important part. So here basically the code build is a service under AWS. So to because this code build service is also going to interact with other services like your GitHub services, sorry, GitHub repos, your S3 bucket where it is going to publish the build artifact. So there should be some kind of permissions or some kind of policies which allow code build service to use those resources. So that's why we need to create a service role. If you have already you have created a custom service role, you can go with this option. But if you have not created any existing service role, you can go with new service role option, and simply you will provide a name of this service role. So let me provide let me check the project name. So same name I will keep it here, my app project. Okay, where it is, okay, so by default it is taking a name is CodeBuild hyphen my app project hyphen service role, which is also fine. If you want, you can change the name as well. So this role where it will create, let me open another console here. Okay, let me go to here. So this role basically will be created under IAM, which is Identity and Access Management System in AWS. So if I'll go here roles, so you can see as of now I have only these three roles. I don't have any roles with the name of this code build hyphen my app hyphen project. So I don't have any roles. So this role is going to create, and it will attach some policies or permissions that we will see once we will create this complete project. Okay, now additional configurations. So let me see if anything is interested here. So compute type, you can choose 2 virtual CPU, 4 virtual CPU. I'll go with default, which is 4 virtual CPU and 8 GB memory, which is fine. So file type system, I don't want any. Okay, so let me leave these options. Additional configurations I'm not going to use because this is just a simple demonstration. Okay, now here again this is very important part, and actually your complete CI part depend on this part, which is build spec. So this is very important part. So here you can see build specifications. Here we have two options: insert build command or use a build spec file. So basically build spec file is a recipe or a configuration file, like how you are going to compile your application, what all the stages it will have. So all those things you are going to declare inside build spec.ml file. So let me go to my presentation here. Okay, let me close this. So build spec.ml files looks something like this. So here you can see the very first thing we have user version, then we have a phases. So here we have how many phases? Install, which is one phase, pre-build stage, pre-build is another phase, then we have a build phase, post build phase. So these are the phases. Like first we want to install few dependencies. For that, what commands you are going to use. Then you have a pre-build task, then you have actual build task, then after build what you want to do, the post build task, then where you want to store your artifacts. So everything you are going to declare in this build spec.ml file. So if I will go on my GitHub repo, so I already have this simple build spec.ml file which we are going to use as part of this video. So here basically the command you can see, we are going to create a directory called AWS slash my beanstalk app, sorry, beanstalk hyphen app, and this is the artifact. So because I only have a simple uh, server.js file, this is the node.js applications where we are basically going to print a simple message. So once we deploy this application, we will see this message, hello from elastic beanstalk. So that's why I don't have much configuration inside this file, but in real world you will have these many faces inside your build spec.ml file. When we do more complex demonstration, then definitely we will cover in detail about this build spec.ml file, like what all the things we have to write. So in general, in short, just understand this is the important part of your code build, because based on this configuration your code build is going to execute. So like whatever the task you have declared here, all those things you are going to execute. So let me use a build spec file and let me provide a path here. Generally this file you should have in a root directory of your repositories, but in my case I have multiple folders, that's why I have given a exact path. But if you have this file in root directory, you can simply provide the name as well. Or if you will not provide the name as well and your file with this same name, then it will automatically pick. Suppose if you have this file with different name, then definitely you have to mention the name. Okay, artifact type, I don't have any primary artifact, so let's leave it default. And also I don't want any CloudWatch logs, so that is also fine. Now let me hit create build project. Okay, so one thing we forget here, Amazon Linux. Okay, let's find, let me click on create build project. So basically it is going to set up a complete environment for you where you have your operating systems, runtime, everything it is going to set up for you. So once it will be set up, your pipeline is going to trigger. So you can see the project has been created successfully. So now let me run this project. You can see we don't have any build history here. So let me click on start build and let me come to a phase details. So you can see the first it submitted the deployment, then it queued, it provisioned the environment, then now it is going to download the source code. Now it is going to install pre-build, build, post-build, upload artifacts, all those things it is going to cover. Okay, now if I will go to a build log, so okay, actually we have not created a CloudWatch, so it's fine. So it means our CI part is completed, right? Now let me, okay, so let's see where it's published the artifact. Let me go to, okay, let's verify the IAM role first. Let me refresh this screen. So you can see it is created a role called CodeBuild -myapp -project-service role. Without this role, your code will not work. So let's see what all the policies it is created as part of this project. So it created two policies, CodeBuild base policies and CodeBuild code connection source credentials policy. So if I will expand this, here you can see we have a create log groups. It is related to your CloudWatch. Then it is S3 because this build artifact by default is going to store the artifacts on S3 bucket. We have not created the S3 bucket, it is automatically created. So all those permission, because to create or to push artifacts on S3 bucket, it should have a permission. That's why it is created these policies. Another policies it is created, which is to connect your applications source code. So in our case, we have used GitHub. So this is, if you see, this identity is definitely is going to belong to a GitHub connection which we have created. So if I will sorry, let me go to settings, connections. If you see this resource ID 6B 7B, and if I will go here 6B 7B, so this code connection is like your code build service should know, okay, how it is going to authenticate with your GitHub's repositories. So for that it is created this connection policies. So these two policies has been created as part of your code build service. So now we have created a code build service, but we have not created a code deploy because we have not deployed our application. Now we need to deploy our applications. Before deployment, let me go to a deployment section here. So first we need to create an application where you want to deploy your application, EC2 or on-premise, AWS Lambda or Amazon ECS. But I'm planning to deploy this application in our Elastic Beanstalk, which is Web app on AWS. So for that, what we will do, because in here we are not able to see a option, let me discard this. So what I will do, let me go to a code pipeline. Here we will get a lot of options. So let me go to pipeline section and let me click on create pipeline. So let me go with build custom pipeline, or if I will choose, okay, let's go with build custom pipeline. We are not going to use default templates here. So let's give a pipeline name. So my pipeline. Now you can see the execution mode. So here we have three execution modes: superseded, second we have queued, and third we have parallel. So superseded, what does it mean? Basically, suppose you have your pipeline is already running a build A and another build V has been triggered. In that case, it will take a priority to the latest build, which is build B. It will discard or it will cancel the build A. If you want that kind of scenarios, you can go with superseded one. If you want queued, it means once the existing or the running pipeline execution will be completed, then only the another pipeline will execute, like it will be in queue. So in that case, you can use queued mode execution mode, or another one here we have is parallel execution mode. So in that case, if you have multiple environments, in that case you can go with parallel execution mode. Now here again we have a pulse service role, new service role. Now again, this code pipeline is also a separate service in AWS, and this pipeline should also have a permission on your code repos, then your S3 buckets. So for that we need a service role. So what it will do, as soon as this role will be created, it is going to create few policies as well. So that we will discuss once we will set up this pipeline. Now in advanced configuration, artifact store, you can see a default location. So it is going to create a S3 bucket with this name. And let me show you one more thing. Let me go to S3 buckets, because code pipeline, sorry, a code build is also created a S3 bucket. So you can see, okay, this is old one. So I am in my correct region, which is Mumbai, which is fine. Okay, so it is not created yet. Let's create this first one, then it is going to create. So because we have not specified, I think in build stage, let me go to build stage first, code build stage, sorry. And let me edit it. So project type, source, additional configuration. Let's see here what we have. Okay, here, okay, it's fine. Okay, so actually we have not chosen the artifactory here. That's why it is not created. Let me select the S3 bucket. So actually I don't want to use any of them. Or maybe we can use any existing pipeline. Okay, let's do one thing. We will not touch this build part. Let me cancel this. We will set up this in code pipeline part. So let me go to my code pipeline. Okay, let me create a new pipeline again. So I will go with custom pipeline. Let me give a name, my pipeline 1. And here I will go with queued 1, which is fine. New service role, which is also fine. Advanced configuration, default artifact store. So it is going to create S3 bucket with this name, code pipeline -AP south 1 2EFFA. Let's see, here we have 2EFFA. Okay, so here we have this pipeline. This is fine, my mistake. So I don't want any variable. So encryption key, basically if you want you can use a customer managed key. So because whatever the files you are going to store on S3, it is going to encrypt and decrypt. So for that you need a KMST, key management service, basically. So that's what this encryption key is going to do. So AWS is going to manage this for us. If you want to manage, you can use customer manage here. Let me click on next. So now the source provider, in our case source provider is my GitHub app. Let me select it, or we can use okay, so GitHub app only, whichever source provider. So here let me select my repository, let me select my branch, output artifact, which is fine default. Now under webhook, let me filter a branch here. Let me put a name, main branch, and let me provide the path as well. Let me click on next. Okay, event type, let me push. Okay, so other build provider, let me select my AWS CodeBuild here, which we have created. So let me select my project name, and rest all the fields are fine. Now I don't want any trash stage for now, so let me skip it. Deployment provider. So you can see here we have lots of provider now. So we, like if we have chosen AWS CodeDeploy, in that case we were not able to deploy on Elastic Beanstalk. But if you can see here, we have a separate service for Elastic Beanstalk. So let me select it. Okay, so I don't have any Elastic Beanstalk service. So let me create a Elastic Beanstalk service first. So let me give a name, platform. This is Node.js application. This is version is also fine. Click on next. So here we have to choose a service role. So unfortunately I cannot see any service role. So let's create a two service role. One service role for IAM and another for EC2 compute instance. So let's quickly create a service role here. So here we will choose a service type AWS service, trust entity type, and use case is Elastic Beanstalk, and these two use cases we have to choose. Like first we will create Elastic Beanstalk environment, then we will create another service role for Elastic Beanstalk compute. So as part of this role, by default this is AWS managed policies which is going to attach, so it's fine. Let me click on next and let me click on create. So now let me refresh it. So we have this role. Now let me create another role. So now you can see use cases Elastic Beanstalk compute. So let me click on next. Again this role will cover a few AWS managed policies, which is fine. Let me click on next and let me create it. Okay, so a role with this name already exists. Let me put EC2 1 here. Okay, so now let me refresh this. Okay, so actually you can see we already have a service role. Unfortunately we have created another service role, which is fine. So this is going to use the existing role which we have. Now let me quickly click on skip to review, because we don't want all these things, and most of the things you can see optional, optional and optional. So let me skip and let me create this application. So it is going to take couple of minutes to set up our Elastic Beanstalk application. So let's wait. Once this service will be ready, then we will go and set up complete the setup of our pipeline. So now we can see the health is okay, environment successfully launched. So let's try to browse it. Let me okay, let me open this URL. Let's see what opened. So basically it is going to open a default Elastic Beanstalk page which is currently deployed. What we want something else. So now what we will do, let me select the Beanstalk again here. Let me do Elastic Beanstalk. This is my app name and this is the environment name. So let me click on next. So now my pipeline setup is completed. You can see deploy stage, build stage, trigger configurations and source stage. So everything is completed. Now let me click on create pipeline. So you can see the very first stage we have here is source, then we have a build, then we have a deployment stage. So let's see if it is works, or maybe something might got failed. So you can see the source stage is completed, and meantime let's verify the S3 bucket as well. So this is the one. You can see my pipeline one, and here we can see the artifact also, build artifact and source artifact. If I will open this, we have these files and all. So let's see. Okay, build stage is succeeded, deployment stage is failed. Let's see why it failed. So the provided role does not have elastic beanstalk create application version permission. Okay, so this is issue with whatever the service role we have created as part of code pipeline. So if I will go to settings, so this is the service role which we have created. This role does not have permission for AWS elastic beanstalk. So let me open this service role. So as of now, you can see under this service role, we have only these policies. We don't have any policies or permissions for elastic beanstalk service. So let me click on attach policies here, and let me search here for beanstalk. Okay, so let me go with administrator access. This is just a demonstration, but in real time, we will not use direct administrator level access. We have to always choose a least privilege which is required to run or perform a particular task. So let me add this permission to this service role. So now this pipeline service role has permission on elastic beanstalk. Now let me click on release changes. So it is going to create a new build. Let me go to execution. You can see this is the second execution. So it is going to take couple of minutes. So basically in this video we have discussed very basics about like how we can set up a CI/CD pipeline, how we can set up CI part, and then how we set up a CD part, because we have not used code deploy because we were not able to deploy our application on elastic beanstalk because that option was not available under code deploy. That's why we have directly created a code pipeline, and end of the day we are going to create a code pipeline itself to set up a CI/CD pipeline. We can define a trigger type, like if any changes will happen on our application source code, pipeline will automatically trigger. Source code in the sense GitHub repositories which we have created. So let's verify first this stays. Okay, so we can see this stage is also completed. So all the three stages has been completed. Now let me go to my elastic beanstalk and refresh it. So you can see we are getting a message, hello from elastic beanstalk. This is what we want as an output. It means the application is deployed successfully using code pipeline, which is CI/CD in AWS. And so there are a few important things, like you should uh, very much familiar about IAM role, service role, which is required. Basically you need two roles, build service role and code pipeline service role, which is definitely required to execute, to run your pipeline. And another thing, let me add it to this pipeline. So if you can see a trigger option here, edit trigger, let me change here. So if you can see event type, we have chosen push. So if we will make any changes on our repository, it is going to trigger a build automatically. So for example, let me go to my GitHub repo. Okay, not on this file. So let me server.js edit it. So if I will change, for example, let's see here, elastic beanstalk app, and let me commit these changes. And if I will come to pipeline execution, okay, so it is not started. Okay, create trigger. Let's see a code build part, build history. So you can see it triggered a project just now 18 seconds ago. So we have changes, we have make a changes on GitHub repositories, and it triggered a build. So it means continuous integration is configured. If we want, we can also configure a continuous deployment. So as soon as any check-in or any code commit will happen on your GitHub repositories, it is going to trigger a complete CI/CD pipeline for you. So CI part is already enabled, that's why you can see a duration here. And CD part we have not configured, that's why it is not triggered a code pipeline. So if I'll go here executions, still we can see two options. Maybe we can also set up a trigger here as well, but that we will see in upcoming videos. So I hope it's clear how we can set up a CI/CD pipeline on AWS. So that's all for today. See you next video. Thank you so much.